Welcome, welcome to Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. I am your host, Megan, and my amazing co-host is...
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hello. All right, so busy week or lazy week, crushing it this week or under the weather, the world is a dumpster fire or not. We show up because that's our jam. We don't polish our lives and only share the highlight reel. Show up here with us, you'll get authenticity. Messy, imperfect us week after week.
Yes, sure, right? The other thing you can expect from us are progressive views and secular discussions. We're not about ableist language. We believe disease registries are a fucking awful idea. LGBTQIA plus kids matter. Vaccines save lives, and so much more.
So much more, right? Yeah. Oh, the world, especially the United States, is such a dumpster fire right now. And it's so freaking stressful, right? But let's talk about something that many of us find much more enjoyable: summer. Today, we'll be talking about what homeschooling looks like in the summer, and we've got a whole variety of ways it can look. But first, we start every episode with a recap of our weeks. So what's happening in your world, Amanda?
What's happening? As far as homeschooling goes, we've got like a pretty nice groove going on. So that's good. Things are just like moving along. We've wrapped up some things. We've had some random connection problems and issues with that. And we just actually started a project we're trying to have some fix. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not 100% sure how condo living and fix happening is going to work out, but we are home for a reasonable stretch of time. I say that, but that's not exactly true. We've got some short trips. So we're mostly home where we can be actually having some fix. So that's an exciting project. We'll see how that goes. The biggest thing in my world is, I think I mentioned it last week, but I finally went and saw this new specialist that I've been waiting forever to see. And he decided he wanted to try like a 3-month course of antibiotics to see if it helps with some head issues that I'm having. And yeah, like there's just not really any world where 3 months of antibiotics feels like a good thing. So I'm really thankful that I was back to my chronic illness baseline before this nonsense started, because it's kind of kicking my ass. I'm, like it's not like a big headache, but I'm going on, day 7 of having like this kind of just like low key headache there. And I don't really want to take anything for it, because if this is going to be like my everyday for the next 3 months, it doesn't really seem like a good idea to be taking medication every day for 3 months for headache. So yeah, like it just makes me a little extra cranky. And all I really want is like, white bread and saltine crackers. So yeah, it is what it is. The joys of chronic illness. It's one of those big, like you see those memes come around all the time where like, it's like, oh, your friend is like, well, I would argue they're not your friend, but a person is like always something with you. And it's like, yes, it's almost as if I have a chronic illness, like imagine. But yeah.
Kind of how that works.
Yeah, exactly. Not that complicated, but it seems really hard for some people to grasp. So how about you guys? You've moved, you're in a new city.
We did. So we were in Vienna last week when we recorded, and we were recording from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. because the place we were staying had really crappy Wi-Fi. And that was the only time that very few people were on the Wi-Fi, and the common area where the Wi-Fi was the best of the worst functioned. And so it was quieter at that time. So we were supposed to be there another week. And I was like, there is no way I can work like this for another week, right? I teach classes online and I can't. So thankfully they were able to refund us for what we paid to stay in Vienna that extra week. And so we decided we wanted to come to Prague, but it was Easter week and that weekend was booked. So we hopped over to Bratislava, which is like a 1-hour bus ride, and we could get a hotel room there on Easter weekend. So we did that for 2 nights and then went to Prague. So we're loving Prague. It's beautiful. And then next week we go to Budapest, which is our next hub that we're going to. So it's one of the biggest homeschool hubs of the year. There's like 100 teenagers going. It's prom. It's a whole to do. So that'll be pretty exciting. So yeah, I did think about you earlier today because I woke up with a stuffy nose and a sore throat. And I was like, I think I'm just going to like completely zonk out for the day. And I was like, Amanda would be like, this is like better than my baseline. And you're like, I'm going to just lay in bed and relax. And I'm like, but I don't want to get worse at the same time too. Like we have a really busy 2 weeks coming up in Budapest. So I've just been laying low, and I will totally be muting myself for my tissue breaks throughout our episode because my nose is just a little bit drippy. So that's
Oh.
good. The only other thing was I was telling Amanda, so if you've been following along, my oldest kiddo has been in Greece and Turkey for 6 weeks on a trip. And I was laughing because yesterday he called me and he was at a restaurant. I could tell he wasn't like panicked, but I could tell it wasn't like a chit chat phone call, right? So it was like kind of quick. And he was in a restaurant. He was trying to use one of my credit cards that he keeps on him. And it was asking for a PIN. And I was like, there is no PIN. Every once in a while that happens when we're in foreign countries. So I was like, can you pay with cash? He's like, I'm out of cash. Okay. So, and he has his own debit card, but then there's fees and blah, blah, blah. So he's like, I'm with somebody else. They said they'll pay for lunch and I'll figure it out later. I was like, no problem. I'll transfer you some money, go to an ATM, get out money, blah, blah, blah. All this, right? I decided to take a nap in the afternoon. I wake up and I had a text from my mom from the BBC that there was an earthquake where he is in Istanbul. So right away I call him and I'm like, hey, I saw there was an earthquake. Are you okay? He's like, oh yeah, that happened before I talked to you about the money at the restaurant. And I was like, at no point in this process did you think like my mom might see this on the news and be like, I wonder if my kid is squished under a door frame. Maybe I should send her a text and just be like, there was an earthquake, but I'm fine. Nope. Did not do that thing. Like the mind of a teenage boy cracks me up, especially a neurodivergent teenage boy. He was like, I'm good. I've already talked to you since then. But I didn't know like the timing of everything, like if it was before or after or whatever. So I was kind of cracking up, but I was like, do you know what to do in an earthquake? And he was like, yeah, I'm good. It's fine. It was all good. I was like, oh my goodness. So I go, there's going to be more, just so you know, like, I'm like, that might not have even been the biggest one. You never know. So like, stay alert, pal. So far, so good.
That's it. And it seems like maybe it's done. Oh yeah, all good. But yeah, I can't imagine. Man, they're awesome. But whew, buddy.
I know. Like any sort of like I'm alive message would have been great, but whatever.
Good time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So summer. When you're homeschooling, what does that look like? Right? I mean, again, we've talked about this so many times in this podcast. So if you're following along, if you're a frequent listener, you know the reality of homeschooling is that you get to decide what your homeschool, what your schedule, what your structure, you get to decide what they all look like. So truly, what is summer? That depends on you. So for a lot of people, they want to take a summer break. This idea of, like you have like these really fond memories of long days, enjoying summer break off from school. Like I know for me, there was like afternoons of watching bad soap operas and then, playing outside with your friends for hours and just, going to the swimming pool, the community pool, like just all of those things. And so if you have these fond memories and you're in a position where you can recreate that for your kids and they get joy from it too, by all means, arrange your schedule that way. So you get that summer vacation. So you get to recreate that, whether it's 8 weeks long or 3 months long, like whatever works for you and makes you happy and works in your family, go for it. Right. I mean, like, I think it's harder. I don't know about you. Did you have those kinds of summers, Megan?
No, my parents both worked when I was younger. So
Mine
I
too,
was,
but I was starting in like kindergarten. So, but again, right, that's kind of one of those differences, right? I grew up in a really small rural town, and by mid-elementary school, I was bicycling all over town and taking myself to the local swimming pool and doing all of those fun kinds of things. My younger brothers were with a daycare person during the day, and I had a lot of summer freedom that I cannot imagine giving my kiddo now, right? Like I just can't. And also we live in a big city. We live right in the heart of the city. There's not even a public pool he could bicycle himself to, right? I mean, like things are just very different. And it's not that like all the kids in the neighborhood are roaming from one backyard to the next and they're playing pickup games of sports and going to the pool to swim and reading books together in the backyard. And, there's just none of that where we are. So obviously I'm not going to be able to recreate exactly that where I am. But even where you were as a kid could significantly impact what kind of summer you were having, right?
Yeah, I mean, I mostly went to YMCA camp in the summer and it was average, but it was definitely like a holding pen of something to do with your kids during the day. It didn't have like that magical vibe to it. So, but that's fine. It was what it was.
Well, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with summer camps either. I mean, yes, there are the type that like you got shipped off to because your parents needed someone watching you and it was a little boring. But there are also fun ones, right? Like I know
Yeah.
like it you have I mean, you got to be on top of it, right? I sort of dropped the ball. There was some like model train building camp that my kiddo wanted to go to. And by the time I realized that I missed the date and I put him on the wait list, they were like, yeah, there are already 5 people in front of him. Like, there aren't going to be 5 dropouts. And I was like, "Oops." And I know here where we are, the zoo camp is apparently super cool and fun. And like a massive waiting list and it sells out in like the first 3 minutes that it opens. It's like a whole thing trying to get into it. So, I mean, like if part of your summer break was getting to do these camps or man, I know when I was younger, I used to go to Girl Scout camp. Did you ever do Girl Scout camp?
Nope.
No, it's a different vibe. It's certainly easy to see why we see the world differently. But I love Girl Scout camp. I was like the master Girl Scout cookie seller so that it would cover at least 2 weeks of camp every summer. So, like I've super, super enjoyed that from a really young age. I haven't been able to convince my kiddo that he has any interest in a sleepaway camp. So, again, that's that kind of thing. Make sure just because you have fond memories of something doesn't mean it's going to bring joy for your kids as well. And again, homeschooling, like good, positive homeschooling is a partnership with your
Yeah.
kiddos. And then, like listening to them and respecting what works for them. And of course, we might encourage, and we might occasionally push a little of like, maybe we should try something new or let's scaffold, let's put some scaffolding in place so that you feel comfortable doing this thing. But at the same time, if they're really like, no, that's not my jam. Like, no is a complete sentence, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I know. I was telling Amanda this week that Amanda's always talked about John Hopkins CTY Center for Talented Youth on our episodes, and it's been on my radar for years. I started seeing Facebook ads for it like back when we lived in North Carolina. And none of my kids have ever had an interest. And I've brought it up and just occasionally, right? Like every 6 months or whatever, hey, remember this program exists. Like maybe I might see an ad on Facebook or somebody mentions it or you see it in a post. Nothing. And then finally, like last week, my kiddo was like, I think I might be interested in that. And we went through and we looked at all the mathematics classes, which if you're listening to this and you can barely get your kid to do a math worksheet and you're like, how the heck do you expect me to convince my kid to go to math camp over the summer? Like, not right. Like to Amanda's point, right? Like they have to be on board with it. It has to be a partnership. My kid loves math. So to him, that sounds like way more fun than anything else. I mean, I offered for him to just go to good old fashioned summer camp where you sleep under the stars and swim in a lake. And he was like, no. my oldest loves that camp. So it's like, they're just all so different, right? So yeah, to your point, it was like he finally was on board and I was like, yes, okay, fine. So, he might go do a sleepaway of that this summer, next summer, whatever. We'll see. We'll see what he decides when we keep digging into it. But
well, yeah. And I'm sure for you, if you're sitting there thinking of like, what would an ideal summer break look like? You're not like math camp.
I know, because we've been talking about it like on and off for a while as far as like what in my mind, there needed to be something to go along with the math, right? Like I was like, maybe we should really like beef up science or something because what are you going to use this math for? I was thinking like, you're going to use this math for like engineering. You're going to use this math for, research science. Like, what are you going to do with this thing that you love math? He's 13, so he doesn't need to know right away. But maybe if we start thinking about like elective type classes for high school and stuff like that, like how we want to structure that. Finally, he was like, I just want to do math. He goes, you can be a mathematician. And I was like, okay, like that never, I mean, of course I know you can be a mathematician, but like the thought that someone would dedicate their lives to solving math problems, like to me is just so because it's not my world, right? Like I hated math.
Yeah. Also, that thing, right? It kind of goes to show that all of us can fall into that trap of like productivity. Like, okay, you want to
Yep.
do what does that lead to?
Yep.
What does that go with? What does that and sometimes it's fine. In fact, we would argue that a lot of times it's fine to learn just because you enjoy learning. Right. And so remembering as the parent to, take a step, especially, I mean, say that the episode is about what you're going to do around summer break. Like, truly, if you want to do that year round and you want to have more of an unschooling focus and you want to see how that fits in, we have plenty of other episodes for that. But summer break is the perfect time for your kid to just be like, I really want to write a movie script. I really just want to play with math all summer long. Like these things. I want to do a YouTube channel. And the rest of the school year, you're like, you're not going to be a famous YouTuber. Can we think about something else that we're going to do with your life? But summer, they can go all in on a YouTube channel and do whatever they want. And you don't have to worry about monetizing it. You don't have to worry about the growth and you don't have to teach them how to, you know, metrics or any of that. They can just do it for fun and it can just be a fun summer project,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, the options are truly endless when it comes to summer vacation, right? There are some people, though, who school year round. And so summer is just kind of a continuation of the usual. I mean, for us, school is life. So, yes, summer is a continuation of the usual. The kids are always taking classes, doing projects, stuff like that. My math kiddo changes it up. Instead of doing hardcore math on OutSchool, he does hardcore math through Arizona State University. But like, that's his choice. That's still his interest led unschooling direction. So off he goes. But yeah, you could totally do that. I mean, I know for us, when we started homeschooling, the first state I homeschooled in was Florida. The third state I homeschooled in was Texas. Both of those are like living on the sun. Like they're just, it's unreal. I thought Florida was hot. Let me tell you, when we got to Texas, it was literally like being cooked alive. It was so awful. The last thing we're going to do is have outings in July and August. Like we're hiding in July and August. The air conditioner can't even keep up cooling our own house in July and August, let alone being outdoors. So if you live in a place like that where there's a rainy season or something like that in the summer, do school, right? Take off. Like in Florida, January and February are amazing. Make that your summer break if you want to. And when it's raining for the entire month of June and you're sweating your ass off for the entire month of July, for both, and you're sweating your ass off for both the entire month of July and August, like stay inside and buckle down and get some stuff done, right? Like you can totally change it up. It doesn't have to look or feel any one way, which is really nice. The other thing that's really nice about doing that year-round concept that we haven't talked about as much maybe is it gives you so much flexibility throughout the school year. So if there's something that pops up during the school year that you're super interested in and you decide you want to do that, or you're just burnt out, like you're all burnt out and you're kind of feisty and cranky and nobody's having fun learning, take a week off, take 2 weeks off, take a little break. You want to take the entire month of December off. We used to do December was like all themed. It was cooking and baking and lap books about the winter holidays and service projects and all kinds of stuff. You have that option when you're schooling year round that you can take those breaks when you want to. You can travel when it's cheaper and less expensive, all that kind of stuff. You couldn't pay me. Somebody just posted something about going to Disney in the summer. And I think it was in like the Traveling with the Kids Facebook group. And I was like, honestly, there is no amount of money in this world that could get me. They were talking about going to Disney in the summer. And I was like, there's no amount of money in this world that could get me to Disney World in the summer. None whatsoever. It's awful.
Well, yeah. And I mean, not obviously there are people that this doesn't apply to, but so many people, one of the advantages of homeschooling is that you have the ability to travel when you want. And not only travel when you want, but travel when it's more affordable, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows trying to travel during summer break is significantly more expensive. And so if you want to switch it around or do something that looks a little bit more like a traditional year-round public school, right? Where you're schooling all year round, but you have a lot more of these like 2 and 3 week breaks. It's an excellent time to be like, hey, I saw a great deal on airfare to this thing we want to do, or we want to go do ski week like everyone else. So we don't want to pay the exorbitant fees that people are paying in February. So what if we go, the week before Christmas or, mid-January before the holidays, the next long weekend start, and that's when it's cheaper. You can totally do that. On the flip side, you have other places that have really beautiful weather. Like we keep talking about it being really hot and why you might not want to do it in when it's really hot. But like I know when I lived in Seattle, right? Like Seattle can be kind of rough. If you love Seattle, you're going to be like, that's not true. But if you don't love Seattle, you'll understand when I say like most people live for the 2.5 to 3 months of summer in Seattle, right? That said, you might want to break that time up because it's actually really nice out, right? And it's temperate and sunny, and you can do those science experiments outside without worrying about them being rained out, right? And you can go on the hikes and do the nature stuff without having to put on all of the layers and then, like, oh, where are we going to have our snack? Like the last time I brought a sandwich and it got rained on and the kid had a meltdown because it was a soggy PB&J. And like, you can find these ways to balance whatever works, right? It doesn't have to be, well, we have terrible weather, so we can only do this. Or, like truly whatever,
Yeah.
whatever works for your family, right? And take advantage of the travel deal.
Yeah.
You can't be talking to the two of us and not understand how much we love a good full deal in off season, right? Non-peak time.
Yeah. I was laughing when you brought up Seattle because the summer of 2022, we decided to go up to the Pacific Northwest to get out of the Texas heat. And we were like, let's go. We had a camper van. So we were like, let's just get out of here. We'll go. It'll be so amazing. And it was the hottest season they had had in the Pacific Northwest in like 100 and something years. Places were closing because they didn't have air conditioning. So like their kitchen staff couldn't work and stuff like that. It was so hot. And at one point we were camping out in the middle of nowhere, like no humans for ages around. And there was a lot of naked camping that went on because it was so hot that it was like you couldn't even have clothing touching you. It was so hot. I got out of the shower and I was like, oh my gosh, this feels good. I don't want to get dressed. And I was like, there's no one here. Why am I worried about getting dressed? Like, I'm good. Right. And I was like, and we were looking at the weather on our phones. It was cooler in Texas than it was in Seattle. We were like, what the hell? This was not how this was supposed to go.
Well, it's true. And like in Seattle proper, it does get hot. Like, I'm not going to say that it doesn't. Like I lived there for several years. It does get hot. But you only have to go like a few miles outside of Seattle and it gets so much hotter. So my husband, when we were dating and then when we first got engaged, he lived out in Carnation, which for anyone who's listening and knows the area knows that that's like even further east than like the Redmond Microsoft campus stuff. So it's far enough out there, right? That summers were always in the hundreds there. And he'd be like, let's stay at my place. And I'd be like, but you won't turn on your air conditioning. I don't have air conditioning, but I live in the city where it's at least cooler. So like, maybe my place. Right? Like, oh man. Because yeah, the whole West Coast is not really prepared for actual heat. There's not great AC in lots of places here.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was like 120s while we were there. And I mean, like health advisories and all kinds of stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. And then it was cooler in Texas. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, that is brutal. Okay, we have some more to talk about, but speaking of summer and what you do, did you know that we create all sorts of all ages study materials? So we totally do, and we have them for sale, available. We have everything from like unit studies, many are quite timely, things like the Japanese internment camps during World War II and wildlife conservation and national parks, to other things that are just more general input, like aviation history and South Africa's Freedom Day and apartheid and those kinds of things. And we're also actually just starting to add some additional things, like some themed coloring pages. Those will be slowly rolling out over the next several months. And then we're adding in some novel studies. There's going to be just a wide range of things that you can do. And these can be really great things when you are wanting to do this like let's do some stuff in summer, but I don't know exactly what we want to do, or let's add in something that's like fun and a little offbeat, right? In our family, we usually do those in the month before Christmas and then also over kind of this summer break. And so, yeah, you can totally find them. We have them on Teachers Pay Teachers, and we will have them in our Patreon store. We're working on getting them there. So they may be there when this episode drops. They may be there shortly after this episode drops. We'll see. We're still trying to figure that out. Man, technology is not necessarily, yeah, tech. Whew, we're old. I don't know. I don't know what else to say there.
I don't think it's us. I think the Patreon store is just kind of dysfunctional and poorly planned. I don't know. I'm not owning that one just yet.
Like all of the social sites, right? Everyone, creators everywhere are moving, right? You've got the TikTok store, you've got the Instagram store, you've got Substack and ways you can sell things on Substack, and you've got like everyone has an option, but they are not all the same and they're not all well integrated. It was like every social media site was like, hey, we need to add that too, but then they didn't really spend the time they needed to make sure that it was actually like user friendly. Yeah. So anyway, we're working on that. There are things, we're always adding new things, right? Every month there's a new unit study. Oh, and actually, if you go both on our Patreon and in our Teachers Pay Teachers store, we have a free unit study over there so that you can get a feel for just our style and whether or not it works for your kiddo and your family. You totally go download that. It is 100% free. So yeah, check it out. Teachers Pay Teachers is in our Patreon store, and it's just homeschool moms unfiltered. We don't get terribly creative with it.
Try to keep it simple. Life is complicated enough, right?
Yes. Like, please do not ask me to remember any other new weird random like acronyms and the like, where do we go for this? I'm always like sending Megan messages like, what was that thing that you were telling me about? So, like, I think some creator that I like was talking about some program. Like, do you remember which creator it was? I can go look in their link tree to see if I can find the link to the other thing, to the so yeah, easy to Google and find us. Okay, so we talked about all of those. Another option that kind of blends the two, and we were sort of alluding to it before, but it's kind of this idea of like a lighter summer schedule that's still like flexible year-round homeschooling, right? And I think I definitely have friends who go all in on summer break. I have homeschool friends who love summer break and putting away the curriculum and just walking away and being done, right? And we have a few friends. I'm going to be honest, Megan is one of them. We don't have that many, but we have a few friends who are just like, learning is our life. We homeschool year round, and that's just how it is. Most of the people that I know tend to fall in this kind of third bucket of like, if we completely back away from anything learning or education from the summer, it's really hard to get back into the swing of things when the school year starts. So this idea of like, okay, we're gonna take it easy. We're gonna have a ton of flexibility. We're not gonna worry about doing all of the things and hitting all of the curriculum. In fact, we may or may not even use curriculum over the summer. It might be more unit studies, more specific camps, and additional things that go around that. It might be, some specific, not necessarily unit studies, but, a really focused project or that kind of a thing, right? It works for those of us, like we were talking earlier in the episode, who can't recreate their childhoods, whatever that looked like. If you've got these really fond memories, you can sort of go all in this other direction of like, well, if I was a kid, I would have loved being able to spend all summer on this project, or, I would have loved the chance to go see my grandparents for a few weeks and then come home and do this other thing, right? You can kind of do this mix and match where it it flows and everyone gets the break that they need, right? Because everyone needs break. And I'm not a big advocate of like, I just saw a funny meme. I don't know if you've seen it going around, but there's one where this person is like, my 2-week vacation never makes me refreshed and ready to come back to work. It just makes me dread work even more. And I was like, oh, that's so, like if you if we could all find a better balance, I feel like it wouldn't be so bad. But like, especially in American culture, right? Like you get 2 weeks all year. And if you like save that and you take it, and then when you come back to like, it's awful. It's
Awful.
awful. So, like finding a better balance of like taking some time off and doing things, but also being ready. I know my kiddo, and again, I know he's a unique egg and not everyone's kiddo feels this way. Pretty bored within about a week of me being like, no, we're not doing anything. And so that was part of what led me to this. Like, well, we need to have a little bit more structure and things planned that he can easily pick up and do because it makes it easier for him to work on his fun project without feeling like, well, I've been writing this screenplay, I've been working on this stop motion video for hours every day for days and days. And now I'm a little burnt out on doing it, that I didn't get finished. I don't know what I want to do next. And like, I'm bored. And like, well, that's not my problem. Like, that's a you problem, not a me problem. And so, like, what does that look like for us? I have found that if there are just a few things that he's doing every day, it helps limit how often I hear I'm bored because that little bit of structure around things gives him that feeling of like, well, I did these things. This is how I'm going to structure my day. And I'm going to set this time aside for my fun stuff or my project that I'm working on, as opposed to just this open ended. And I know for me, if I have an entire day where I don't have to do anything, it feels amazing at first. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, I had all of these things I wanted to do and I didn't get it done because I didn't put any structure around it. And again, that can be great for a few days, even a few weeks, but at least for me, and it seems like for my kiddo as well, when that stretches on for weeks and weeks at a time, we tend to get a little antsy and dysregulated from it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I can see what you're saying about if you take a long chunk of time off, it's really hard to get back into the swing of things. I mean, if you talk to, I think, any brick and mortar teacher about their first week back to school, it's like, I mean, they're heading home like exhausted and, ready for a really tall glass of wine because it's a lot of work to get the kids back into the schedule and into the rhythm and just the whole thing, right? And homeschooled kids, I mean, yes, we're approaching things differently for the most part and we're doing, but it's still the same thing. If you have that huge gap, you talked about if you take your 2 weeks vacation off work and then you go back to work, it's brutal, right? And so it's the same thing. If you take 2 full months off where they haven't done anything, that first week back, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, right? It's going to be a little ugly if you do it that way. So even if it's lighter or it's different, right? It's not the curriculum. It's projects or it's interests with an occasional this or that coming from the parent here and there. It's not like the school year, but it still keeps just that little bit of a current running through the idea of we're learning, we're advancing, we're progressing, all that kind of stuff. So I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, there's statistics out there about the summer slide for public school kids. It's a real thing, right? I mean, teachers talk about the fact that they spend like the first 2 months of school trying to just get the kids back to where they ended the year before in June, which is why it makes no sense that our school system is still working off a farming schedule when the vast majority of children that go to school don't farm. But like when we lived in North Carolina, it was great because it was a year-round school schedule. And I don't remember exactly what it was because my kids didn't go to school, but it was something like 8 weeks on, 3 weeks off or something like that, right? And it was great because you never had this massive chunk of time where their kids were completely just disconnected from learning. And it made it that much easier to get back into it when you went back in. So I like the idea of kind of, maybe turning the heat down, but not turning the heat off.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know in my family, one of my extended family members was saying that their school offers summer school. And, when I was a kid, right? In the old days, summer school was always for the kids who were struggling, right? And it was this thing of like, well, if you need to, whatever. But I was talking with her, my relative, and she was saying that their summer school program, it's not like that. And one summer, they were like, we're going to opt out of it. We want to have this more traditional summer break. And the kids learned so much new stuff that her kiddo was really behind when he school in the fall. And so there are a lot of things that are changing around this idea and what that looks like. But it's true, there are statistics that show the summer slide, it is real. It's maybe not as bad as some of the statistics out there. And there are easy ways to address it, right? This idea of like just making sure that you're reading, pleasure reading, summer reading programs or magazines, whatever that looks like in your home can have a huge impact. I think math is a little bit harder because a lot of kids like to sort of box up the math at the end of the year and be done with a lot of those concepts. And so it's true when you come back 2 or 3 months later, you're not remembering all of the concepts because you put them away in a box and you were like, oh, I'm done with that. And so, like pulling that box back out and reviewing all of the things, it takes effort. There are more unschooling ways to, kind of stay on top of that. If you're more academic aggressive homeschooler, there are options like the summer bridge workbook. It's like a super easy is not really the right word, but it's a super accessible workbook, I will say. It's got a page, one, like the front side is maybe ELA and the back side is math. And it's just review concepts from the previous school year. And you just kind of are reviewing everything 1 page a day throughout summer. It really shouldn't take more than 10 or 15 minutes a day. But it's this kind of chance for you to see like, oh, I guess we missed that. We might want to cover that, right? Or you can look at it and be like, well, we didn't cover that, but I don't really think there's any value to that. So I'm not worried about it, right? And you can just sort of keep tabs on it. And then it also keeps your kiddo just thinking about those things. And especially if they're younger and they've had to, memorize timetables or random facts like that. And that matters to you. This is a chance for you to just slowly, gently kind of brush up on it without it being a big thing or, like continuing on with school just to like, hey, in the morning, before we go out to do X, Y, or Z, or before you turn on the TV, or before you jump on your tablet to make your stop motion movie or your YouTube channel, or whatever it is, like just do 1 page a day of this workbook. Easy peasy. It has other things thrown in there too. I know specifically the summer bridge workbook also has like some random map work that a lot of kids enjoy and some other little projects and things like that, it might work. It might not work for you. And I know there's several options out there. Summer bridge isn't the only one, but something like that could be helpful if you're wanting to do this lighter summer schedule where you don't totally get out of the groove of things, where you're, like Megan said, that's a great analogy of like kind of keeping the current going. Like don't put a complete stop to it, but it doesn't have to be a big all-in educational, this is what we do for summer. You can totally find the balance there.
That does sound like an amazing resource. As you like to say, probably not something I will be doing, but amazing resource nonetheless. I mean, I'm really invested in it. I'm like, I love that resource exists. That's really cool. I will not be doing that thing, right? But that's the thing, right? Different strokes. Yeah. I mean, for us, yeah, I mean, it's really the same as the whole year. Summer is just more of the same, more interest led, more time to do things. Sometimes my kids are, they're still taking formal classes in the summer because usually it's something that's interesting to them. I know, for example, last year, my daughter took off from her college program the January semester because she had some time sensitive things that she wanted to do. There was an artist in Australia who was offering this online class, and it was in March. And she was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this and keep up with my college workload. And there were a couple of competitions that she wanted to enter garments into, and the deadlines were at such a point, or magazine articles that she was writing and stuff like that. And they had deadlines. So she was like, I'd rather take school during the summer and free up my time then. And so she did. But the summer is just an awesome time. Like you said, like create a YouTube channel, whatever it might be. I mean, we've talked about heat being an issue, but like one of my kids was like blacksmithing during the summer, right? That was his thing. And I was like, it's Texas and you're like, what is wrong with you? Oh my gosh, the smell in the car on the ride home was just unreal. between the BO and the smokiness, it was like, because it was coal forges. So it was like, ugh. But yeah, I mean, it's just an amazing time for them to be able to kind of dig in and do that. I mean, I'm all about setting goals. You know that. It makes Amanda nauseous when I talk about goal setting, I think, because I talk about it too much. But, you could sit down with your kids at the beginning of the summer and be like, what do you want to do with this summer? Now, if you are homeschooling for only a short period of time, your kids are probably still going to have very much of a traditional mindset. So they're like, what do I want to do this summer? I want to be a brain dead zombie, right? Because that's my right after a year of school. And so you're probably going to have to get really, really clever with your questions as far as how you kind of bring out of them what they're interested in and what they might want to explore a little bit more with you, but that you can do it, right? Those questions can be there. You just have to kind of go at it from every single angle, like a game of kerplunk where you're like trying to pull a straw out without the marbles falling down, that you can do it. So it's a great time for stuff like that. And maybe you're sitting down and creating like a summer bucket list with your kids, right? Like these are the things that I want to do. And in my world, I'd go to Canva and I'd make it really cute and we'd print it out and we'd check things off and all that kind of stuff. But it can look however you want because Amanda's like, I'm not doing that. She's like,
Big happening in my world.
so, you have all kinds of options there, but it's such an awesome time to kind of branch out and dig in a little bit, which I love.
Well, that's true. And what you kind of early in that was, it made me think, or it's important to just quickly address hemisphere, right? Like we are in the northern hemisphere. We're both US based. So Megan is more in Europe now. But if you're doing all of this, it is important to remember, right, that the southern hemisphere has summer during our winter. And that matters for a couple of reasons. First off, if you're doing something like Megan Kiddo was talking about, and you're really interested in something that's coming from a creator, a class, a teacher, something from another hemisphere, you might need to or want to change things around because they're going to have some really great things during what we would consider our summer. And so keeping that in mind. But also, if you're wanting to travel and get good deals, right, it's worth remembering that they're going to have very different school breaks than we have, and taking that into consideration when you're looking not only at places in the southern hemisphere, but places that those folks might most like to vacation on their breaks, right? Because
Yep.
that'll really play into it. I see a lot of times in the travel group, like, I want to go here at this time and it's really expensive. I don't understand why. And people are like, well, that's because all of the Australians are going there at that time on their break, like that's a big break kind of thing. So worth keeping those sorts of things in mind as you're planning, and just remembering that like our summer isn't everyone's summer, and what that means, how that looks.
Exactly. Yeah. Very different schedules.
Yeah.
The other thing that's pretty awesome in the summer too, if you want to keep learning going, but you want to do it in a really organic, natural way. I mean, especially if you have a kid who's newer to homeschooling or has some resistance to education, resistance to anything that feels formal, stuff like that, it's an awesome time for game schooling. I mean, you're not doing all of the curriculum and stuff like that. You've got a little bit more free time. There's so many games out there that are just so awesome. And I see all the time in groups where people are looking for like a birthday gift or a winter holiday gifts or something like that. And they're like, I need educational games. Most games are educational, right? There's so much that comes out of gameplay. Some are probably a little bit more educational than others if they involve like spelling of words like bananagrams or Scrabble or letter tycoon or something like that. Or if it's heavily involving currency and making change and strategy and stuff like that, those are probably going to be a little bit more quote unquote educational. But there's educational value in most games, even if it's things like pattern sequencing and strategy and cooperative play and teamwork and things like that. Like there's so much to be learned from game schooling that it's a super fun way to keep kids learning throughout the summer that they're not maybe as resistant to if they view summer as a time that is time to be off from school.
Yeah, no, that's super true. I mean, I think for people who are really in the swing of things with homeschooling and who have done their deschooling, it's probably easier to maybe work in those unit studies and things like that, right? Your kiddos are going to be far more like, oh, yeah, this is a fun rabbit hole to go down. Let's learn about hurricanes and how that works. Or I think it is the hurricane unity where it's about the bridge building activity that we have. And like, I mean, my kiddos spent days doing bridges with different materials and then driving trucks across. And half of the time it was to see how badly the truck end up crashed at the bottom of the ravine. I mean, like, if you have already done a lot of that deconstructing work, it's a lot easier and a lot more fun to kind of do these rabbit holes with unit studies. But if you're not there yet, you've got a resistant learner, or we have a lot of people who listen to our podcast because they're just getting started, right? And they're like, well, we're going to take the summer off and then we're going to dive in. Absolutely. You can take the summer off. You might find it's helpful and useful to take the summer off and incorporate this kind of game schooling thing where you're, again, this idea of learning, but making it fun, helping them realize whether they're consciously like, oh, this was fun and I learned this, or subconsciously like they're just having a good time. But as the parent, you know that they were practicing making change. I don't know if you're listening to this and you're a really young parent, you might not think this is a problem, but I'm going to bet that the vast majority of our demographic, which Spotify tells me is like in the 40-ish range of women. Like, how many times have you gone somewhere and they've told you how much it was and you pull out a 20 and then you're like, oh, wait a second. And you get out like your 13 cents and change because you don't want a ton of change from it. And they look at you like, but you already gave me a 20, and they like try to give you your 13 cents back. And you're like, no, please don't give me a handful of change. Like, you've just melted their brain because they're not sure how to make change. Like, make sense, the allowance game, those kinds of things. And you know that you are teaching your kiddo math, really valuable life skills that you with your barista had. Homeschooling, right? It was family game time or friend game time. It's easy to work that in, whether it's during the day or in the evening, after dinner, before you go for a walk, whatever that might look like.
Yeah. And there's so much out there that's just super fun, and it makes it really cool. I mean, hello, Twister is PE. Hello, keep going. We're doing good. Right. There's a million ways to incorporate game schooling, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that there are some really fun, like, geography ones that for us, we do that. And as we are reading about different places, and I'm quite well traveled, but we have a geography game that's got lots of things in it that I've not even really heard of, right? And so as we're doing it, we set the card aside when we're done with it if it's something that we want to add to our bucket list, or like, that might be a place we want to travel to. Let's put that aside and then go Google it and research it a little more to see if it goes on our like places we want to visit list. There are lots of fun ways that you can make it more without it being obvious that you're making it more.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, while you were talking, I'm like, maybe they should all learn to play Risk or like Axis and Allies, because I feel like all of that history is coming back around again. Those might be valuable life skills for our kids at this point, right? With where the world is headed right now. So yeah, we've got those for sure. I mean, even just having a big family puzzle I hate visual clutter. Like, I hate visual clutter. So puzzles are like really hard in my house because when things are laying around, they drive me nuts. But, if you can like dedicate a coffee table to one, and it's just kind of like everybody sits around after dinner and does some, and it's just good family time. People can kind of debrief about their day and stuff like that. And it's kind of a connection point that's lower stress than the typical, which is nice. As long as you get a low stress puzzle. I saw one recently that was all number 2 yellow pencils and like hundreds of them in a puzzle. And I was like, that would not be a stress-free puzzle at all.
A couple years ago, my parents do puzzles, and whenever we go visit them for a long period of time, we do fairly often. We tend to make our there a few weeks, if not a month at a time. We all sit around and do puzzles, right? And they have a style that they really like. But my brothers and I, every once in a while, we give them really awful puzzles to do on their own. And a couple years ago, I got them this. Some people have probably seen it around. It's a succulent puzzle, and it's all just green succulents, but one side is bigger green succulents, and then the back side is smaller green succulents. It's the worst puzzle in the world.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awful.
Yeah.
That would not be super fun. Oh my goodness. That's fantastic.
Maybe don't do that for your summer game schooling. That will not encourage your kiddos to enjoy game schooling.
Like, I hate puzzles, love puzzle trauma growing up. Like, no, thank you. Oh my gosh, that's too funny. Okay, so we've chatted a ton about summer break today and ways that you might approach summer break. Really, I think the end result is there's no right or wrong way to do summer, but hopefully you've gotten some options. Before we completely wrap up our episode for today, we wanted to do a little reminder that you can come hang out with us in real life-ish, Zoom-ish. We are over on Patreon. It is a great non-meta platform that allows us to connect and build community. We have several different levels of membership over there, everything from a free lurker to $7 a month, where you get one of our $10 themed unit studies at a discount through the subscription service. Then we have $12 and $20 levels where you get the monthly unit study and all that other stuff. But then there's a host of live meetings that you can come to where we talk about homeschooling. If you're new, homeschooling neurodivergent kids, we have a social that we just come together and hang out with one another. We have chat groups over there about all sorts of stuff. So it's a nice place to come and hang out. So we would love to welcome you over there. You can Google us. You can find the link in the show notes. It's on the homepage of our website, Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. So yeah, come on over and we would love to welcome you there.
Yeah. The Patreon is a really fun community. We're figuring it out, right? Every once in a while, an email goes out that we were like, whoa, that was not supposed to work that way. But we are figuring it out and you can come figure it out along with us. Growth and progress. That's what we're all about for us and our kiddos. But
sorry, I was just going to say, like we mentioned, it's non-meta. Like the nice thing about Patreon is whenever we're trying to figure out something out, like it's a new function or something over there, their support team is so helpful, right? They send us really detailed things and they're like, if this doesn't help, let us know. I mean, have you ever tried getting help from Meta? It's like,
black hole, never seen by anyone.
Yeah. So this is like a really nice organization when you need help. There's actually human beings that help you, which is becoming less and less common in this world.
Yeah, that is so true. Okay. So we like to wrap up each episode with a mantra. We've got a mantra for you this week. You can take a full summer break, keep a light rhythm, or dive into weird electives. We're just here to remind you that there's no wrong way to homeschool in July.
So right? True.
That's it. Whatever works for you. Remember, homeschooling means you have the ultimate flexibility. You get to do what works for you and your kiddos.
Yep. And weird electives are the best. I love weird electives. That's totally our jam.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. We had a really awesome time chatting, and we hope you have a great week.
Happy homeschooling.